What's going on, YouTube? It is I, the Trash Master, here with my first deck profile that I'm going to be featuring. Today we'll be playing probably the second most budget deck for Nova Grappler that's viable, Godhand Dragon. It's a deck I've been playing for quite a while, and I think it's really fun. It's not as consistent as something like Beast Deities or the upcoming Victor, but it definitely packs a punch when it goes off. So for the deck, we play 4 copies of Godhand Dragon. His first ability is a continuous. Any power that you get from checking a front trigger during your drive check is increased by 10,000. So for those of you who don't really play Standard, front trigger is a trigger that allows you to give plus 10,000 power to your entire front row. Therefore, Godhand will make all of your front triggers 20,000 power, which is pretty good. It stacks up numbers pretty quickly. His second skill is auto on Vanguard Circle. When he attacks, you counterblast 1 and discard a card to increase his drive by 1, so he gets 3 drive checks, and then if your opponent is at grade 3, he gets a critical. This is, once again, more for just pressure, and being able to increase your drives really helps with the deck's overall gimmick of front trigger go burr. But yeah, 4 Godhand, it's essential. Next up, we play 2 of arguably my favorite card in all of Standard, Ultra Beast Deity Illuminal Dragon. Now, what he does is auto on Vanguard Circle once per turn. If your rear guard's attack doesn't hit, you can counterblast 1, stand that unit, give it 10,000 power, and then it immediately attacks again. This is actually really good for pressure plays, but I only play 2 because your main thing is Godhand. So, his second skill, and the main reason he's in this deck, is once per turn on Vanguard or Rearguard, when your other unit's attack hits, he gets plus 15. So, this guy gets his plus 15 very easily if you check even 1 front trigger with this deck. While he's on the Rearguard, most things are going to hit after Godhand's attack, because, you know, most people are going to save their perfect guards for Godhand. And again, I play him not only because he's a really good card, but he also happens to be my favorite card in all of Standard. Going for our grade 2 lineups, we play 4 Fusing Striker. His first ability is continuous on Vanguard or Rearguard. The power increase of all your front triggers is increased by 5,000. So, assuming he's on the field by himself without Godhand or anything else, your front triggers will get plus 15. But will be plus 15. But if you have Godhand out, they become a plus 25, which is super good. His second skill is when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, you check the top 5 cards of your deck for 1 Godhand. Add it to your hand, shuffle the rest back, and if you added a card, you discard a card. This is really nice because while the search is mandatory, the actually getting a card and ditching one is optional. Obviously, if you get the card, you have to ditch, but still, searching for Godhand is a really good card, and with the upcoming set, they get Error Sheet, which makes this deck even more consistent. Next, we play 4 Kick Typhoon. Yes, this is the reprint, not the triple rare from the set, but that's just because much cost. His first ability is on Vanguard or Rearguard. When he's placed on Vanguard Circle or an additional Rearguard Circle, Axel Circle, he get one of your units gets plus 5. So you can also give it to himself. He actually combos really well with another card I'm going to show you in a second, especially with the second skill, which is once per turn on Rearguard Circle, when he attacks, if all of your front row units are full, you can counterblast one, stand one of your other rear guards, which is really good, especially for a clan like Nova Grappler, to where the multi-attack is what the deck does, well, what the clan is known for. Multi-attacking on units that get plus 20 or 25 or however much power is always really good. It puts on a lot of pressure. Next up, we play 4 copies of Odd Puncher Selnoin. Now, this is the card I was talking about that pairs really well with Kick. His ability is on Vanguard or Rearguard. Once per turn, when your drive check reveals a front trigger, he gets 1 critical. So, in addition to God Hand giving plus 20k from checking a front, he's also going to get a crit. And then if you played a Kick this turn, he'll be a 33k with a crit on his own. And then of course Kick can stand him, so he'll attack twice. That's also really good. The crit pressure is really nice. Some people would play Gain X2, which I'll show right up here, for more multi-attacks, but I personally prefer the crit pressure because the multi-attack's not going to do too much if they don't need to guard it. Whereas with the crit pressure, it either forces them to guard or it makes them take massive damage early on. Going for our grade 1s, we play 4 Starfighter Silver Fist. His first ability, much like Fusing Striker here, is continuous on Vanguard or Rearguard. Any power increase given by front triggers is increased by 5,000. So once again, you have Fusing Striker, God Hand, and God Hand on the board. With him, that's a plus 30k front. That's a plus 30k front trigger, which is immense. His second skill is on Vanguard Circle. When he hits a Vanguard, you draw a card, then discard a card. It's really good. It's really good for hand filtering, but in all honesty, this card would be so much better if it just allowed you to draw when it hits. Kind of like how Narukami and Kagero have. Especially since this card is a triple rare, so, you know, having the draw power would actually really help. But, you know, Nova Grappler will take what it can get, and besides, Cool Hank is much better when it comes out. Next, we play 4 copies of Claydol Mechanic. Now, this can actually be interchanged with the next card I'm going to be talking about for 3 and 4, but I play 4 because I've noticed while playing this deck that I counterblast a lot. Anyway, what he does is, his first ability is, when he's placed on Rearguard, if you have a total of 4 or less cards on your hand and field, you draw a card. So if you're running really, really low on resources, he can come in clutch and really help swing the game in your favor. His second ability is, when you counterblast, you retire him to countercharge. So a little bit of an interesting thing is, this card was originally mistranslated. In the original version, it said when you would counterblast, but now that they fixed it up, it actually says when you counterblast. So you do actually have to counterblast in order to get the countercharge. But that's okay, because he essentially makes some of your costs that would be counterblast 1 free, like Kick or God Hand or the next card I'm about to show. Anyway, this is the reprint, not the original, because much cost on the original. Next up, we play 3 copies of Guntrooper Kleps. Now, as I said earlier, you can interchange, play 3 Claydol and 4 Kleps if you prefer it that way. I prefer 4 Claydol, but whatever floats your boat. His ability is auto on Rearguard Circle. When your drive check reveals a normal unit and your Vanguard is God Hand, you can counterblast 1 to retire him to give your Vanguard an additional drive check. So, because God Hand starts with a triple drive on his attack, if any of those are a normal unit, you can make it a quad drive, or maybe more if you have more of these guys on board. which once again that's really helpful with the drive check front go burr strategy. But personally, the Counterblast 1 is what made me decide to choose playing 3 of this over 3 Claydol. Nevertheless, really good card. And last, probably one of the most essential cards for this deck, we play Grit Bengal. Now, his ability is when he's placed on rearguard circle, you can reveal a front trigger from your hand and place it directly on top of your deck. So, with this card will pretty much guarantee you get your fronts. So if you play this, you play 1 or 2 of these, you get a front on top of your deck, you'll have the guaranteed power up to make your board really strong. They did kind of balance it by making him a 7K, but that's perfectly fine. If I had one wish about this card is maybe make it like a Counterblast 1 as an act to make this deck even more consistent, but you know what? Still, on place guarantee of front is pretty good. As for the trigger lineups, as expected with God Hand, $12 front triggers. I've seen some lists play less, but in my opinion, the consistency is what playing this many fronts ups the consistency by quite a bit. My last triggers is draw PGs, because you know every deck needs their Sentinel. Even with the new Sentinel Break Pass coming out, I would still play the draw trigger, because at that point you still might as well have the PG, especially since you don't generate as much. Especially since you don't generate that much hand for shields anyway. And then finally the starter, Battle Riser. The reason I play Battle Riser is because another thing I will sometimes do is I'll change these out for high-powered Riser Customs to allow for more multi-attacking. But for now, the build I have has the Illuminals, but I keep the Battle Riser in there because he's a pretty cool starter. Because other than that, this deck doesn't actually care about starters. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for my deck profile. Make sure you let me know in the comments what you think and what you do in your own personal decks. Make sure you hit that bell icon, subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, get notified of my channel's uploads, and I will see you next time. Peace.